Morning, everyone. It's Jeremy. Randy's hopping on a little bit late. We'll just wait for him, a couple of few. In the meantime, probably we could discuss, or anyone would like to discuss, or oh, he's right about in right now. Hey, Randy.
I might have a microphone issue. Suppose nobody's saying anything, so I can't tell if this works, huh?
We can hear you.
Hey, Jeremy, I got a handful of microphones. Can you say something again?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can hear you too.
Thanks, Shonda.
Me too.
Well, let's see. Hey, Bob. Let's go. We gotta I'm gonna fly out shortly. We got roped into going out to that United Wholesale Mortgage campus. So we got a good half hour though. One of the things that I was gonna bring up, I'm gonna figure out how to share my screen here. And let's see. Yep. I'll just show you guys some of this info I found with some of the scripts that NAR had written for us to kind of talk to our clients about. And let's see here, for example, I don't know how many of you guys really get into like putting your information in the chat screen or something like that to give me responses or thumbs up, but I'm going to show you guys this website here. So I don't know who's all familiar with actually going to mnrealtor.com. So everybody who pays dues has access to this website. And a lot of people don't know it because you just go to like your state SPAR or MAR. And what this is the state association. So everything from NAR kind of funnels into the state and then, out to the associations, the local associations. But the state association is the group that works on all of our forms and takes arbitration complaints, ethics complaints. So when you go to the website, there's these options up here. I'm already not on the main page, but I logged in. I used my NERDS number. I think my password's my NERDS number too. And then you can get access. So when you go in here to member services, everybody wonders what our benefits are, but there are some. So I guess there's classes in here to take, but more importantly, like I go down to legal affairs all the time. And this is where you can read, well, I have to submit legal hotline tickets. I don't know. They think they try to funnel or channel that to make their job a little easier, probably, and not have a whole bunch of different inquiries. They probably think I can filter a lot of them out. But, the forms, the commission disputes are in here. So if anybody ever had a dispute, you can go and file. Who is that? One of our agents had a listing agent came up short on the net and basically told our buyer's agent, too bad we don't get paid on this one. That's the way it works sometimes in real estate. And I told her that the MLS has a guarantee for a co-op. So if she goes in and files this commission dispute, the MLS will force her to pay or cut off their membership or fine the broker. He might get a fine already because of the way he handled it, but she didn't sign anything giving up her commission. He just decided not to pay the co-op. So the other thing I wanted to bring this up is this is actually where I get a form like this, these updates for meetings and stuff like that. Spar sends me stuff and Minnesota sends me stuff. So I got a couple things in my email I thought we'd go over. And I think I'll try to keep an eye on the chat box here. Yes, okay. So that if anybody has a question, I can try to see that and answer it. Well, what they sent us this time was some scripts to use. So they kind of came across, I guess, objections and things. And I could figure out how to post this. Or maybe I'll send it to Jeremy and he can post it if I can't figure it out. But I'll try to post this up here where everybody can get a copy. So if anybody, they're kind of saying, what's changed and what hasn't changed. And then just to clarify again, I think a lot of you already know we're kind of like kicking a dead horse here. Hopefully you can see this. I'll see if I can make it bigger, but the nutshell of what changed is this, they're trying to make more transparency in commissions. Like how do we get paid was kind of the goal that they had to do this. And so the real thing that changed on the settlement was we no longer get to look in that simple spot in the MLS for the co-op. And so one of the things that they had mentioned to talk to your clients about is, when we get into these written agreements, I'm guilty of it. Most of the time I would pull out my buyer's rep forms when I write a PA, right? Your buyers, you're walking around, you might be friends or family, or maybe that's a lead, but you don't want to break out the buyer rep agreement. And so we would put it in when we would write the PA. And so now kind of the scripting you're kind of saying is, hey, so that there's no surprises for anybody. That's why we're pulling out these written agreements now, just kind of help enhance the transparency around the services and compensation. And then you can point out to them that you cannot collect more in compensation from any source than what's agreed on in that agreement. And if you read that agreement, that's where you're going to outline if you're going to get paid through the co-op, if the buyer is going to pay you, and if the co-op will reduce their obligation and things like that. So is there just some kind of, I wonder if I should. I don't. Yeah, I wish somebody could help me out here, but.
Ready? Are you trying to share?
Yeah, you guys can see the screen, right? What I'm highlighting?
No, actually, you have to press the button below there. It says screen, share screen. There you go. God.
So what I've been trying to point out to you guys is this is a website for Marthen. And now I want to post a couple things in the chat here. So this is a main kind of objection handler I'm just posting in the chat box now that I just highlighted. Now I'm going to go back. I'll show you guys. If nobody's ever seen the Minnesota Realtors website, it's mnrealtor.com. This is your state association. So this is kind of where the legal stuff and the forms happen, where I submit tickets, where you can submit ethics complaints or commission disputes under member services. You can also get generic real estate forms without our company logo in here. Or hopefully they haven't switched that, but it should be forms in here also. So they were in the past. So this is where I usually get all of our legal information. So then I got a PDF from the state association and it went over these items. So I just put this one objection here up in the chat box. And then, so when it comes down to questions, the only thing that's changed is for us, it doesn't even matter to the clients that we can't find the information in the MLS because we can call the broker, so it's kind of really a change for us. But what changes, they're making it more transparent to pull out these buyer rep agreements. And so the key thing is they say what hasn't changed here. And so to avoid confusion, if you read this line, in terms of contracts, written buyers and contracts aren't new to Minnesota. So we've always had these. They've been required since 1993. So since I've been practicing, we've always had the buyer contracts. Now somebody's saying that we need to get them up front instead of sneak them in when we do the PA. I do know that all commissions need to be disclosed prior to PAs. That's always been an ethics rule. And so just so you guys know, like if you were to forget to put something like an admin fee on the buyer rep, technically you're not supposed to slip it in after there's a PA. You know, every now and then mistakes happen, but like if some agent, Department of Commerce saw that a certain agent continuously did that and slipped it in later, then that would turn into an issue with them if there was ever an audit. So how will buyers get paid now? I guess this, they're saying, well, you know, as a realtor, we tell our clients that the compensation between the sellers and the buyer's agent, it's still an option. And it just needs to be handled outside of the MLS. So we call the broker and find out what it is. I think we've all established that. I can't too much highlights here. So let's see. Now it includes the ways that we can be compensated, right? We've all established that there's still a co-op. And if for some odd reason we haven't educated the sellers well enough to add a co-op, then we have to just go straight to the seller. So one of our agents did come, Dennis, I don't see his name yet, but he had an idea where on his information, he was trying to make it clear to the buyer's agent that the seller was going to pay the co-op. And the reason that he wanted to do that, or not the co-op, but the seller is going to pay the commission directly. And the reason he wanted to do that was because if somebody checked the wrong box as a buyer's agent, and they had stated on there that they're going to pay a commission from the seller and there's a co-op, yeah, the brokerage could be on the hook for paying that additional commission. I'm not sure that any buyer's agent would try to hang them out to dry, right? Because it's just kind of, right now we're going to kind of step on some things and learn a few things and probably write a PA or two wrong regarding this whole commission thing. So, but he was trying to make it clear so that if the seller paid, a buyer's agent can come back to him as the listing agent and try to get paid by the brokerage because there was still a co-op. I just said, you know, I think you're confusing everybody because if anybody tries to get allow the seller to pay directly and have it negotiated, I think we're going to run into a problem. And the problem is going to be a few things. Like one of them is all of a sudden you're going to put it in the seller's hands to negotiate this commission. And what happens when they're down to $20,000 that to negotiate? They're going to start looking at the agent. And so if it's already predefined up front as a co-op, you know, we won't have that issue. And then the other thing I'm thinking is when these guys have these $900,000 houses and you've got a pretty savvy, think they're savvy listing, you know, seller, and they kind of want to say, well, I mean, 1% is $9,000. Doesn't that seem sufficient for a payout? So I know you guys are going to have some issues when you're running into that, and everything's negotiable. But we'll just have to try to, you know, demonstrate and illustrate what the standard is in the industry and why they want to get 2.5 or 2.7 listed on our website as a co-op so that agents, as many agents show their house as possible and they make more money at the end of the day, probably with top value. And if I didn't, let me see if I can't pull that up quick. Just a little sidebar. Okay. So National Realty Guild. It looks like Jeremy, I have to go in and I'm gonna have to go in and update this. So he's been waiting for Lofty to help him do this. I'm gonna change one of these to broker co-op information. And so basically, instead of like featured listings or however this feed works, you know, to our listings, I'll activate the feed to our active listings. And then I will rename the feed, like instead of listings, it's going to say broker co-op info. And then basically when they go to the property, when you guys tell us what the co-op is, we'll be able to put it on the listing for our own properties. So that's how we're going to be easily showing anybody in the industry what we're paying. If anybody has questions about that, I'll demonstrate it, but I have to leave today. So hopefully in the next 2-3 days, I can get that resolved with Lofty. Let me see, I got to bounce around here. Okay, so back to this. this form. So I can send this out to anybody that wants a copy of this. Maybe I'll just post it on our NRG Facebook page too. But they're just suggestions. So one of the things that we kind of promised to do is, as you guys experience objections out there, that we share them together so that we can overcome them easier. Take unique scenarios that anybody winds up with, so that we can share them together and learn together. So let's see, these compensation scenarios, right? We've already went over this. You're either going to get a co-op or you're going to get paid directly from the buyer's broker. I don't want to bounce around too much and pull up a PA because I don't have one handy, unless like Jeremy can upload one and I can click on it. But there is a group that is also writing offers that I saw already. They're a pretty established group out around the Minnetonka area. And those lines are on 460 on the purchase agreement. They say you can write in a commission amount, and then the next sentence says, this is, what is it? Is it in addition? Yes, I think it says in addition to any co-op offered by the brokerage. And so what one company is doing is they're, instead of calling all the agents and asking what their co-op is, if you're out showing 8 houses, you can see how that could become cumbersome. And so what they're just doing is they're writing the dollar amount on the purchase agreement, and then they strike that next sentence that says it's in addition to it. So basically they're just saying this is all we expect as the total is 2.5. Maybe I pull up a PA if I can get to it and show you guys where that is, but let's see. Cooperating compensation remains legal. Yeah, so always been compensation. It's still legal, so that hasn't changed. I guess this these got these new showing agreements. So I don't know who's gonna police this, but just so you guys know, again, I'll reiterate, once you get your buyer's agreement signed, probably shoot them into admin at NRG admin so that we can just store them in Dropbox in case we get a complaint. If somebody says, oh, I don't think they're under contract, or wants to verify if somebody's under contract, I don't know if you understand how that could easily happen. Somebody could be out there trying to pick up a buyer that says, I never signed anything. And so if they call us, we'll have a copy of your buyer rep agreement, and we'll just store them in a general folder until you create a transaction in Sweet Assist. Oh, and then I'm not sure if you guys realized this. The VA loans, how the buyer's commission couldn't be included in there, so you'd have to rewrite your purchase agreement so that the seller would wind up paying the admin fee and things like that. So right now the VA has done a temporary lift because they're probably trying to determine how they're going to handle it. But the VA is allowing the buyer commissions to be paid. They have to, right? Otherwise this wouldn't work. So what was it? A different government agency loan, they implemented the rule, but the VA, they made a note that said it's just a temporary ban, that it's a temporary lift. So they might be planning on rewriting the kind of their underwriting guidelines or something like that. I guess they left the door open for them to make changes. Let's see. Oh, this email, I guess I'm going to forward this one to Jeremy right now, and Jeremy can figure out how to get it to everybody, or the links. But if anybody didn't get this, I don't know if they sent it to just brokers, but basically when I saw this, this is what I figured we would go over. And so you can see they sent out an email last week, all the forum updates. We went over that. And if you guys don't know, we got a recording on our YouTube channel and one in Sweet Assist. We should. And that's just the form updates. There really weren't a bunch. They just gave us the ability to write the commissions into that PA. And then right here, so the scripts and compensation scenarios, things that you can talk to your sellers or buyers about. This understanding and navigating upcoming practice changes, we've pretty much been going over now a dozen times, I think. So I just don't know how much more information there is. But if somebody hasn't seen it, I guess, get a hold of us and we can talk about this more. So it's only when somebody asks me about these scenarios that we can really think them through. So when Dennis had called me the other day, he said, I even kicked this back and forth with his daughter, and we're like wondering if we're kind of going too far into this or not. But you know, it's worth having the chat so that we can kind of decide on how to pitch this to people, what the best option is. And I think the best option is to kind of sell it as we have been for 30 years and just move forward and see what happens. Let's see if anybody, okay. If anybody has a question in here, I'm just going to check. Somebody said, oh yeah, Bob, what is this? So do we have to go on the 17th, probably maybe midnight or on or before, the MLS, that co-op field is just going to disappear. So basically, you're going to start getting phone calls probably from agents asking what the co-op is. But the co-op that was in the MLS is going to be honored. So if somebody went on the 16th and showed that property, that's what they're promised by this brokerage already. So you don't have to go in and delete anything, but if you want your co-op, I might have to see if I can get Jeremy or somebody to take a look at all our active listings by the 16th and then post that number into our nationalrealtyguild.com webpage so that we get it updated as a mass. But then as you guys get your listings, you know, want to make sure, I know you enter your own MLS data and probably hold some files sometimes for a while, but we're going to want to turn them in so that we can go ahead and update the National Realty Guild page and eliminate people calling our office and calling you guys on your cell phones as much as possible. So they got this other email they sent. They recommend everything's changed by the 17th. I wonder if there's going to be just a little bit of a ripple. Like Jill was anticipating that this MLS might just shut down because everybody's going to be in there trying to log in and make changes. We'll see what happens. Now, I had a couple questions, like Tammy had asked me, offers of compensation are totally prohibited. So she was like, well, can't we maybe write it on a PDF that doesn't go out to, you know, buyers through all these syndicated websites? And then it's not shared with the public. But the idea is that they're trying to make it harder for us real estate agents. So you can't, if this is going to be monitored on the MLS. So if anybody tries to encrypt this into a sentence, what the co-op is going to be, it's going to be flagged and it'll generate a fine. Now, normally when we get a fine in the MLS, you can call and ask for forgiveness once or twice. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but just don't try it. Agents working with a buyer must enter into this written agreement. Yeah, I don't really know who's policing that. You know, we've always had our buyer agreements. Now they're saying you need to have one. I don't know if a listing agent's going to try to see a copy, but hopefully you guys can get these. Because I don't see anybody saying, well, I want to see a copy of that thing right now, but the rule is we're supposed to have it. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing is trying to get that thing signed and people trying to dance around you. Just so you know, what Jill was doing right from the get-go, and I suppose a lot of other people, somebody, if you get a lead that wants to see a house and you haven't really established rapport or relationship, you can always sign that thing for a day and then you get to meet them. Right. And then just say, you know, to do the best job in finding these homes, we got to extend this. But, you know, so I think that's kind of a good way to translate to get somebody, you know, to start build trust with somebody you don't really know, you know, sign it for a day so that it's a mutual agreement. And then, you know, hopefully you can sign it for a longer period of time right away. I wouldn't let those people go because when it expires, they're fair game again, you know. Let's see. Yeah, these are just the updates that they did and basically all of our agreements that we went over. And you know, form updates. If anybody has questions about form updates again, I can address that with everybody on the call. Maybe everybody learned something or you can call me back. So let's see. I got another question. Are we supposed to submit our buyer's rep with our PAs? That's not what is being said. We're just supposed to have a buyer's rep agreement. And so that's why I say, you know, nobody really policing this, but I think that if somebody wants to try to find a buyer or questions if a buyer's really under contract, they could call us and question the brokerage. And then I'm gonna have to maybe double check that if you guys cannot get something signed, I mean, technically you shouldn't show the house. But I would write down, buyer refused to sign, if that's the case. And that way you got a record of it, just in case this winds up being, some type of an ethics issue that you just got a track record saying, no, I went for the agreement. They wouldn't sign it. What can I do? I don't have a pistol on me or anything like that. We just, so show them the house, move on. Hopefully you get to write an offer, but you're not supposed to submit a buyer's rep with a PA. And then what you are probably going to do though, when you get that PA finalized, if you all recall the form now for the listing broker to guarantee your commission from broker to broker, you'll probably want to get a copy of that in your file from the broker. I don't think everybody's going to be getting those up front. There's no reason until you're selling the house, right? Then you want that copy of what the guarantee is. Now, the lawyers at the board had told me that if an agent was to email you and say, well, the co-op on this is 2.7%, they said that's sufficient enough for you to get, and that's in writing, and that would, on behalf of that brokerage, that would be legal and binding for them to have to pay. But they developed that special NAR form for us. And you'll want to get a copy of that. So before, if you went and showed a house today and the MLS said 2.7, David Schultz had a seller's agent. He was a listing agent and the owner. And he just decided after he heard about this rule to go and change the MLS to closing to 0 the day before closing, and thought he wasn't going to have to pay a commission. And so, well, that's not the way the rules work. So I immediately called the broker, and the broker said, yeah, this agent, whatever, I'll set him straight. So whatever's in the MLS before is what will guarantee you the day you showed the house your commission. And then MLS would just go back and check the records and see what that was on that day. And so now what will guarantee it is that form from the other broker. I don't have, let me see if I got anything else recently. I did get one last night that I thought might be worth looking at. Does anybody get these NAR, Minnesota Association? I know you're all getting your stuff from SPAR and MAR. But I don't know if anybody recalls getting a lot of stuff directly from the National Association. It would be good.
Yeah, I get stuff from NAR. This is Amina. They sent out scripts yesterday, and they also sent out something this morning with let me see.
It must be this. Came out last night.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody guys aren't getting anything from there. You should automatically be, but I just wanted to point it out to you that it's your resource for information. So, by now, all these guys are reiterating the same information here from different sources, and it's really repetitive. So, but any of you guys should have access to your Minnesota Realtor website, because that's where is that you, Amina, or Yesenia, or somebody has to file that commission dispute, but that's where you handle this stuff. Let's see if there's another question. Are you ready for the changes coming this week? Oh, yeah. Marge just mentioned Edina Realty's been, yeah, they've been sending out a handful of emails trying to get agents to, probably they double up as recruiting emails. So they're just telling people, hey, are you guys ready to navigate through this new program? And it's not as complicated as we thought it was going to be half a year ago. That's for sure. Is anybody, okay, somebody wants us to explain co-op a little more. I can do it. I just need 20 seconds. If anybody else wants to explain co-op, you can unmute yourself and do that. Just give me a second. yeah, anybody can expound on this a little more, but I don't know. It's kind of odd to have a question to explain co-op, I feel like, because the co-op is when you list a house for X amount, and then you determine how much you're gonna give to the cooperating broker that's gonna bring the buyer. And so we've always decided, maybe a list for 6% and give away 2.7, whatever that is. I've always said if I give a friend a really good deal and I lower my listing fee, I'm not gonna stick it to the buyer's rep. I'm gonna stay competitive with the market because we want them showing the house. And so it's kind of the same thing now. So when you explain that to the seller in the same regard, you're gonna charge X amount to list the house. And then there's gonna be a portion of that's given to the buyer to get as many offers as you can from buyer's reps. Now, there's a lot of different strategies. One is basically, if you guys have ever seen listing agents sending out a card that they'll list your house for 1% or 1.5%. Well, the bottom line is that's a way to get into the front door and sit at the kitchen table and meet a seller. And then you explain to them, well, yeah, I'm just going to charge you 1.5%, but if you're going to bring in a buyer, we got to pay them. And so that's where you have the discussion about the co-op. It helps people get appointments that way. If there is any other question about co-op, just let me know directly. So all listing agreements now clearly state what we're going to offer as a co-op, or what we're not, if they're not going to offer it. And so if you pull out a listing agreement, it'll become obvious where this information is going to go.
Randy, did I hear that EXP is thinking of mandating that their co-op is going to be 0 as a company policy?
I did not hear that.
Okay.
I can't imagine why somebody would want to do that. Because it's going to make it more complicated to negotiate if the deal gets tight. Now it's going to be a bigger elephant in the room. I mean, if it's all negotiated up front, it'll be all in writing, and the co-op will be the co-op. Buyer's agents will come and write offers, right? It'll be part of the net. And so I can't imagine why anybody would want to try to go 0.
Yeah,
Especially
I'm sure
as
there's
a broker.
all sorts of stupid rumors out there, but that was just one that I heard, so I didn't know if anyone else had heard that.
We'll see. Somebody said I did get new forms from Wisconsin, but not Minnesota. Okay, so Jeremy, do you see that? Well, the new forms are in North Star MLS for everybody, right? They're in Instanet. So that's where your updated forms are. And so you're just going to notice, let's see. I would have to potentially take a look at where the forms update email is, but there's an email that came out from Minnesota that highlights every change. And actually, now that I'm mentioning that, you guys have access to, your website that you pay your dues for. I would have to think right in here, there's going to be a copy of these updated forms.
Hey Randy, is the checklist going to be updated then?
What checklist?
Don't we have like a checklist, like a listing checklist or buyer's checklist or some kind of checklist for inputting our transactions in our platform?
Yeah, I can see what checklist there is, but I don't think there's any, the only new form would be the cooperating, the broker's promise to pay form, the cooperating form. So yeah, if it's not a required form either, but it's something that you guys can have in writing to, to get a guaranteed commission from that broker the day it closes without having to go back and make requests for it. I think what I could do is go and co-op form.
That does have to be sent to you though each time for the broker to sign though, right?
Oh yeah, so I don't know why this is so long. I might ask Francis to change it at nrgrealtor.com. We got this one email that we share. It's billing updates at nrgrealtor.com. And we use it for accounting and stuff, but I'll probably just set up something simple like FR at energyrealtor.com or energy100.com so that you guys know it goes to Francis and Randy, because Francis has the ability to get my signature stamp on anything. So what we were thinking for you guys is when you get that form at the beginning is, so when you get a listing, if you can have it signed by our side, then if anybody calls us up, we can send it to them. And so just when you get your listing going, just submit that form to us, and then we'll know what the co-op is, so we can put it on the website. And then if anybody calls us asking for it, we can just shoot it over to them without having to track you down if you're on vacation or something like that. Which is kind of the same thing with the buyer's rep, I was thinking, because if we wind up in a position where some authority is asking for a copy, then I don't want to have to make up excuses because I can't track down an agent, you know?
Randy,
Yeah.
hi, I have a question about the buyer rep forms. This is Sarah. If, let's say hypothetically that agents, I get a lot of buyers coming to me directly that don't have representation or that don't want representation. And I do get them to sign a 1-day listing contract or 1-day buyer representation contract so I can show a property. Let's say agents actually start doing this, and buyers are under multiple contracts because they're not paying attention to what they're signing or didn't get a copy of it. What happens in that case?
Wait, so the buyer doesn't understand what they're getting, and
I run into that all the time when I meet people now. I say, are you currently working with an agent? And some will say, well, I was, but I'm not going to work with them anymore. I go, did you sign anything? And I can't tell you how many times buyers like, I don't remember, or I never got anything, but I don't remember what I signed. So I worry about what if a buyer was under multiple contracts, but they said they weren't, but then an agent comes to me after the fact and said, well, I'm under contract with them too. What happens?
same thing that's always happened. So I guess that's something exactly that hasn't changed. Anybody could lie. You could probably say, well, who showed you your last house? Call that brokerage and see if they got a valid contract. But I don't see that that's changed at all, because
so whoever had the most recently dated contract would be the one that would be, if they're under contract with multiple people, what happens?
Well, if somebody could prove that the agent didn't try to do this, I don't know what the board would do. But if an agent knew somebody was under contract and you signed up another contract, that's fine.
No, if I didn't, I said, buyer, you want to see this house? Yes. We need to sign a contract. Are you currently under contract with anybody? They say no,
Right.
Because they're paying attention to what they had signed. Then they sign something with me, show the house, and then we start the purchase agreement. And then that other agent they were under contract happens to check in with this buyer and say, hey, have you found anything? They said, yeah, we did, but we signed with another agent. So they're under technically contract with 2 agents, but they never showed the house that let's say I was negotiating with. What happens with a scenario like that?
Well, okay, so in that scenario, the first buyer's agent has the right to sue their buyer for their fee because they're under contract.
Okay, so it doesn't come to me; it would come to the buyer. Okay.
Yeah, and for the other agent, if they were to try to file a procuring cause dispute, right, that's what would happen.
Yeah.
So you would say, well, no, I'm the one who did all the work on here. And if the other agent tried to file a commission dispute, the board would probably look at a whole series of things. Wisconsin might still be the old-fashioned way where basically if you show a house, I think that's procuring cause, but there's a whole list of things. One thing is, the listing agent could be the one who wrote the advertisement, right? You could open the door and then you could have wrote an offer, and then somebody may have come in and picked up the ball like the old agent and said, no, I got to get a hold of this offer and I'm going to coordinate the closing, right? To try to establish more of the responsibilities to procure significant closing, right? Significant or, a successful closing. So the board would look in a dispute about who actually they feel has procuring cause and then award the commission to that person. But yeah, like you're saying, so if some agent came out of the woodwork, well, they need to go back and sue that buyer.
Okay, good. So as long as I ask the questions and if they said, no, we're not under contract, but because they forgot they were or didn't pay attention to what they signed, it would ultimately, the buyer would be in trouble, not me. Well, yeah, because I would never know if they were under contract. I just ask them if they say no, that's all I know.
Right.
Okay,
Let's
that's
see.
good confession.
Okay, here's a note that came out to all, but it's not a question. Yeah, so that's just the statement for everybody that was written down to everybody. I'm gonna keep. Did anybody have a question in here that we didn't answer? Because I got too many things I'm looking at once. If you did, go ahead and just repost it or something. Yeah, so Mike asked, if we want us to send in those buyer rep agreements. I think I said already that we do, because if somebody's trying to track down questions, if somebody's under contract, if we have them, we can answer the question for you. It's just better for you to not have to get your own phone call, right? We can handle it for you. But the way we're probably going to do that, I think, is we're going to hold them all in a Dropbox folder until there's actually a transaction in Sweet Assist to attach it to. You don't have to do it. I mean, we'll just, if we don't have anything on record, we'll refer them to the agent. Okay, so Mark Anderson responded to Mike. Well, you know what? Jill had torn her ACL. I think everybody that was on the call knew that. And she got a little overwhelmed when I hired her to handle these. I think everybody saw her as a valuable resource and started calling her with a lot of questions and things like that. And so after she heals, she's going to determine if she wants to get back in here, because she's got to run her own business. She's pretty busy. And that's part of what the position does. It helps somebody get referrals and get busy. She's always been busy anyways, but we'll see if she's going to host many classes or what we're going to do just to get this new information out to people. So I got to figure something out. If anybody has something that they want to or they feel that they're an expert of and they like to share with other agents to help fill some content on a Tuesday, feel free to reach out to me. Like if we have a unique offering, like I know Peter does property management. He has a very professionally actually paid tens of thousands of dollars for training, but it's full blown property management skills with the right software and things like that. And so a couple of these guys that are doing property management, they've set it up where they can pay you a fee to refer them, potentially a fee for out of the monthly, I'm not sure. But then if the client wants to go back and buy a house down the road, they'll give them back to you so that you can help them buy the house. It's kind of too complicated for every agent to just manage one or two properties or even to grow it. Property management is one of the things that are low paying, but the Department of Commerce, there's so many transactions to get a check that there's enough stuff for the Department of Commerce to find a missing background check or not a returned fee or something like that. So we've had problems with property management and there's just not a lot of pay in it. So until you have a successful business. And so what Peter's done is, has a portfolio of properties and then he has the tools to manage them properly. So if somebody has something like that and you want to maybe consider a Tuesday meeting, let me know.
And Randy, I did a Tuesday maybe about a month and a half ago, and I could do another one coming up here for you if you want it.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I got new forms. Okay. Yeah, I don't. Okay. She is. Yeah, is Jill on the call? I offered to carry her books around for her. She was going to go out to this thing in Michigan with us today. And then she doesn't want to hobble around though. So she opted out. I said I could follow her around and carry her books in her folder. But let's see. how do we deal with open house with the buyer rep agreements? Those are exempt. So the open houses, there's nobody's going to, if you're running the open house, you don't need to get a buyer's agreement for everybody that comes into your open house. If you guys want to chat, if anybody has questions for each other or reach out to each other, if anybody wants to, Shalonda, you could send a message right to Peter right now if you want to. I think you just got to click on the everyone tab and click down to Peter's name. So if anybody, any questions right now, I think we're supposed to be down in MSP at 10:45, so I need to get going here shortly. And I'll be available by phone now. I got an hour car ride, 45-minute car ride. And next week, I think what we're gonna do is we had a handful of agents. I don't know if we really had much of an orientation since we were at Cowboy Jack's last. But I think next Tuesday, we're gonna have Francis and Jeremy do a new agent orientation and then a refresher. So if anybody wants a refresher on like Sweet Assist or the Lofty program that we offer, that possibly is going to be what happens on next Tuesday. So just a heads up, I want to try to let you guys know a day or two in advance what we're going to cover so you can determine if there's a value. But I guess, I don't know how many times I could say, probably this should work out smoother than a lot of people are anticipating. I mean, especially when the Board of Realtors gave us the ability to just throw the commission into that PA now. I don't, but anybody has a unique case scenario, we could discuss it together and try to come up with ideas. Or just look at how somebody might have handled an objection. So I appreciate seeing you guys that all popped on the call. Some of you guys got videos, some got photos. So if anybody wants to reach out for anything, I'll be available for the next couple hours while we go through the tarmac and whatever, get ready to go out to this United Wholesale Mortgage Campus. But I guess let's have a good afternoon. Good luck this week, and reach out to myself or Francis member. I try to set this up so you guys don't have to remember too many different emails. So if you send anything to Francis at nrgadmin.com, he'll forward it to the right place. So if you got to text in or call, that number is supposed to ring Francis, Ann, and Jeremy, but I think they got to adjust something in the phone system. But, just it's all you got to remember, and then it will get you to the right spot. You're welcome. So I'm going to sign off, and everybody have a good afternoon, and give me a buzz if you need something.
Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome.